Welcome to another edition of the Mo Show Live, everybody. Hey, I'm Morris Lilienthal. I'm really excited about tonight's show and probably more excited to catch up with some old friends. But, I think, one of the things that I've learned over the years and through education, through sports, and being the spouse of a teacher is that teachers and coaches are so formative in children's lives that they shape and mold these children's lives. And that a lot of the traits and characteristics that we learn and things that we pick up from our teachers and our coaches really transition and carry into our adult lives and really carry into and shape and mold who we are as citizens, who we are as parents. And that's so important. And that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. We're going to be talking with three and maybe four if Brian and Nick can jump on. But we've got three guys here who have been collectively, I bet, coaching for probably 35, 40, or probably 45 years. So you have 15 years at least each. And they teach, they coach multiple sports, and their primary sports are football. We're going to be talking about some of the lessons that they've learned, some of the things that they think that sports instills in the players and students that they coach and work with. We're going to talk about some other things about sports and football, and then we're going to have some fun at the end and kick it around a few rapid-fire questions. But as we get started here, guys, if you got questions or comments, please put them in the Facebook feed below, and we'll try to get to them as we're having the interview here today. But let me kind of get right into it. Let me do a quick introduction of our guest today. And this is in no particular order, but I'm sure we'll be ribbed about who I start with first. So I don't think anybody can go and be mad if I start with Brian Gossett. And if you guys hear me call him Goose, that's what we called him at Maryville College. And so Goose is a coach and teacher at Alcoa High School in Alcoa, Tennessee. Goose coaches the offensive line there, and I think you're also one of the wrestling coaches there at Alcoa, Goose. And Goose's team has been extremely successful in the last several years since he's been there, and have had a great history and program. They won, I think, was it your fourth state championship in a row, Goose?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And has won multiple state championships since he's been coaching and teaching there. Our next guest is Jason Nash. Jason is the defensive coordinator at Grayson High School in Grayson, Georgia. And over the past 15 years, Nash has been participated and coached multiple 4- and 5-star athletes and has worked on many successful staffs. And I think as we were talking before air, I think Nash said that his program had many kids sign for the early enrollment here or signing day for college football. Nash, thanks for being here, buddy. And our last guest is Chad Flatt. Chad has been an assistant coach at Pickens County High School in Pickens County, Georgia for the last several years, working with the offensive line, and now is the principal at Pickens County Junior High School in Georgia. And I think this year the Dragons had their first undefeated season. I know Chad was excited to still, while he's now a principal, still to be a little bit a part of that and doing so. Guys, how are you guys doing tonight, man? I really appreciate you guys jumping on. I'm looking forward to catching up on Facebook Live with everybody.
Awesome. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, man, it's awesome. Well, one of the things, guys, that sticks out to me that when I talk to people when people ask me about, growing up or being a lawyer and things that I do for a living, where did my background come from? And I really think it came from, as I said when I kicked off, from the teachers and certainly my mom and my family, but also from the people that molded and shaped me going through junior high and high school and so forth. And a large part of that due into sports and I think the characteristics, traits, and things that I learned. So I would be interested to kind of get your perspective, each of you, and we'll just kind of go around the table here and talk. What do you think that either you learned or traits and characteristics that you think that athletics, and particularly football, instills in the young men that you guys coach and teach? Goose, go ahead and go first.
Well, I would say that, the number one thing is just that positive relationship that you have with your coaches, but also that positive relationship that you have with teammates. And I think that teaches you how the world works, really. You have to learn how to have relationships with all different kinds of people from all different kinds of backgrounds. And so I think more than anything else, just being able to build relationships, and inside those relationships, you don't always feel the same way about teammates, certain teammates as you do the others, but learning how to work through those differences and working through those maybe differences that you have in those relationships. I think that's one of the most formative things that coaching really has to offer, but also being part of the team.
I totally agree. Because, I know that, as you guys know, that, in all aspects of your life, whether it's, working in a classroom setting in school with a whole bunch of people, whether it's out in a club atmosphere, if you're a member of some organization or other things, you're interacting with people with different backgrounds, different cultures, different beliefs, and just all types of things that make our society great. But we may have different beliefs, but a lot of times to achieve an end, to achieve something, you got to work together. You got to figure it out. And I think a lot of times that, in sports, we have to do that. And I think that's something that a lot of people miss, is that you build those relationships, and you've got to figure a way to meet that end of winning on Friday night for you guys, and to meet the ultimate end. Nash, what do you think, man?
Uh, I agree with Goose. It's all about the relationships that's part of the reason why I love what I do, and I'm sure we all do. But, my players hear me talk a lot about love. We use the word love a lot. I think football not only teaches you how to work and build relationships and how to talk and interact with people, but it also really teaches kids a true definition of love. They actually know what that is, whether their home life might be bad, it may be good. They might have two parents, they might not. But football can really teach a kid how to love. Like, when that's taken from them, they hurt. When it's over with, they'll cry. They love their teammates, all of that stuff. So, for me, love is a big one that I carry with me.
Yeah. Well, and I think, it comes with passion. I mean, are you passionate about what you do? Are you passionate about giving it your all? Are you passionate about, finding that goal for you and your teammates? And then are you going to do you love what you're doing, and do you love the people around you enough?
That's right.
Work your butt off to not let them down. That when you
That's
may
right.
want to give up and you may want to stop, that I know that you guys are sitting there because you've been putting in the sweat, you've been doing the winning edge to
That's
try
right.
to achieve success on the field. Real quick before Chad, I want you to chime in too. Coach Hayes has joined us, Sean Hayes has joined us, Kyle Dukes joined us, Willie Lacey, and Tar Somerville. Thank you guys all for joining us. If you got questions or comments, please put them in there, and we'll get to them. And there's some questions that may come. I don't know if they'll be Facebook Live worthy or not, but we'll get to them. Chad, what do you think? But what are some of the things that you think that either in you that have shaped and molded you, or some things that you think that have, that football teaches some of the kids that you've worked with over the years?
Well, I don't think you could have set that answer up any better as from a three-pronged look at it with what Goose said about relationship building, which is the fundamental point of each of our jobs every day, all four of us. And then Nash's point about love, which is what we try to instill in every student we deal with on a daily basis, is a care and concern. But the third thing, which was really the thing that it taught me and it teaches kids, is forgive me, when you get knocked on your ass, you got to get back up, and you got to keep getting back up over and over again. And I've never seen any kid, and I'm going to borrow this from one of the coaches I work with, I've never seen a kid that regretted staying at football for the lessons they learned in it than I have seen kids that regretted they gave it up and what they learned about themselves from having given it up. So relationships, love, and learning how to get up when you get knocked down are three of the most important things you do pull from that. So those really well put together accidentally.
Yeah, and in fact, we had not planned any of this. These guys didn't know these questions until I just asked it. And, I totally agree with that. And, life is about persistence and overcoming obstacles. And the four of us as great friends over the years, we know that we face many obstacles in our professional lives. We face obstacles in our personal lives. We have our own, hills to climb and battles to on. But I think what really separates us, and I think why all three of you guys are so successful and you've done so well and you've continued to climb that ladder of success, and the kids that you work with achieve the things that they're achieving in the classroom and on the field, is because when you face that adversity, man, I got to get off my ass and I got to get back out there. What have I got to do to fix this so it doesn't happen again, so I can achieve success, right? I mean, guys, if you came to Maryville College when all of us started at Maryville College, I don't, you guys will know the numbers better than I do, but I think we were like 3-7 my first year there, right? And it was a persistent struggle. We were certainly not winning. It was 3-7, somewhere on those lines, in a couple of years like that. And I know till my senior year, we didn't have a winning season. But if we had given up, we would have never achieved, the success which for us at the time at 7-3 was was tremendous success for that team in 1990. But I really do agree that the things that you guys are hitting on are just great attributes that you pick up that I don't think you can, or are much tougher to pick up if you're not participating in athletics and learning these things.
Well, and they all three go together. I mean, if I have a good relationship with my coach, or if I have a good relationship with my teammate and I love them, then the way that I can show them love is that when things don't go good, I get back up and go back at it again. And I think that the three things, that they just all go together, and they're really a sign of the kind of relationships we want these young men to have in their personal life, like you're talking about. If I can teach a kid to build a positive relationship, if Nash can teach a kid to love somebody else, and if Flatt and his guys can teach them to get up when things aren't good, then we're helping them become what people have helped us become, which is hopefully good husbands, good fathers, and good role models for other people. And I don't think there's a better gift that you can give to somebody than to share that knowledge with them and try to help them achieve that. I think that's the best part of my job, I think, is the opportunity to give those gifts to young men in hopes that they can one of these days leave that legacy for somebody else.
You know, Goose, that piggyback off that, you know, the hot term in today's football lingo is the process. You know, Nick Saban come up with this whole process thing. Ultimately, those three things are basically what the process is. I mean, you take out the weight training and nutritional stuff that we do with them, speed work, weight training, football stuff. The core pieces of the process are fundamentals in relationship, love, and discipline. That's where you got to have all three of them, where your process is busted from jump. So, you know, it's not just being taught here. There's successful programs at the higher levels that are doing the exact same thing. Alabama, Clemson, two off the top of my head. So, I mean, it comes full circle.
Yeah. Hey, real quick before we continue this awesome discussion, real quick to Daniel Beckman for joining us. What's up, Daniel? Corey Griffin, what's up, Griff Dog? I appreciate you. My friend Mitch Jackson out in California, thanks, Mitch, for tuning in. Mary Jane Bevel here in Huntsville, thanks for tuning in. You know, guys, I just, you know, it is. And these things I really think, you know, have shaped and molded us. That's why you guys are so successful. That's why you've climbed the ladder and you've continued, that when you've had adversity that I think you can carry on. And I think this applies, you know, not only football, but any other sports or extracurricular activities that people want to commit to and do. Certainly, I think, you know, being, you know, self-serving, I think that the hard work that you have to put in specifically to football, you know, probably lends itself more to that. But I think that certainly can be true in many other sports too. So, you know, one of the things that, you know, that kind of interests me, you know, that I thought about was, you know, you guys are, you know, we're just old enough now that we've been doing this. If you really go back to when we were playing in high school and then coming up and playing in college together, and then now you guys I know have been coaching, you know, 15, I guess around 15 years each, probably, give or take. You know, I'd be interested to see, you know, what your thoughts are on the change in kids, if you've really seen much of a change in dynamics and how the kids are wired, and how you motivate the kids. Is it more difficult to motivate kids in 2018, you think, than it was in 2003? And if social media and all the jibber jabber, because you guys are at big programs, you guys have been at big programs that get a lot of media attention, does that impact the way the kids perceive and the way the kids are stay focused? You know, Nash, we'll start with you this time.
It definitely does, especially social media today. You know, you got to have a guy on your program that's monitoring that stuff. I know we do, just because, you know, something a teenage kid can sit out there and on social media in a fit of rage just because, I don't know, him and his girlfriend broke up, could essentially cost them a scholarship if the wrong school sees it or if it's worded poorly. So, you know, social media has definitely changed, especially how to motivate, how to focus the kids. You know, when it comes to cameras, my experience with cameras here at Grayson is when the cameras are on, our focus increases. So, you know, cameras for us, I kind of like to play on them every Friday night. It'd be a lot easier. I think it's easier to focus just because they don't want to screw up, because everybody's going to see it. So, you know, I kind of like that, but not everybody has that ability. But, you know, motivation, I don't think how you motivate a kid hasn't changed, at least not for me. You know, every kid's different in the motivation aspect, so you got to find out what makes them tick, and that comes down to people building relationships and knowing your kids individually, not just collectively. But for me, motivation, it's not necessarily how we motivate that's changed. It's how much motivation is needed nowadays is a lot different. There's more of it needed, in my personal opinion. More motivation needed to get kids going, to make them learn that work. You got to work for it. It's not going to be given to you. So you got to get up and you got to keep going. So that's what's changed. Not how we do it, but how often, how frequent we have to do it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the point that I really pick up on there and do. And I think this really is so funny. Now we're going to full circle back to the discussion a while ago. And I think this goes back to what we're talking about a little bit is knowing each individual person's personalities. And as a coach, and a really good coach who is perceptive with that, you're learning that what may have needed to be motivated you, Goose, may have been what was different than what it needed to be motivated me. We know on the team, the guys we played with at Maryville, there were guys that, man, they were wired as soon as they woke up out of bed and wired when they went to bed. And then there are other guys that needed somehow to help them flip that switch to do. And different kids respond to criticism differently. So, Chad, what do you think on it? How have you seen, if any, has that changed? And certainly I would be curious from your perspective as an administrator, how you've seen how social media maybe has impacted some, motivating the kids in other sports too.
Yeah, Nash is 100% right that it requires way more motivation. And I don't think it's a bad thing. It's just different than it used to be. I know that we learned over time that it's very important that if when you really get on a kid, it's very important that same day you need to pull that kid aside and pump them back up again. And I don't feel like that was really the case when I first started coaching. But as I got a little better at it, I learned then that you had to do that way. From the social media standpoint, it is so helpful to kids these days, the ability to spread their abilities out and showcase them. It's also created this false sense of what kids are looking for. I really feel like a lot of times the kids are really just looking for that signing day and those tweets they can put out there. And I don't think necessarily they know what's coming after that. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but I really think there's a false thought that goes along with that. And that's what's tough on the kid. I don't think they see that coming. What's going to come after that? Just some personal experience I've seen with some kids. But overall, I think it's very positive. From the school standpoint with social media, it's very important that you have to understand how to make sure you're getting all the positive you're doing out there so that you can celebrate what the kids do well. And that's a vital component to any football program these days. You must do that, or you will get left behind very quickly.
Yeah.
I want to add something that Chad said right there too. The social media aspect of it is critical. I mean, but you got to talk to your kids about the decommitment process, what Chad talked about. I mean, they're getting loved up now, but like we had 9 signed a day. When they put that ink to paper, that decommitment process begins. So there may not be all that love and hugging them up and dapping them up and giving them swag every time. They're theirs now, and it ultimately is a business. I mean, those guys are in it. They do it to feed their families just like we do. So kids need to understand that. Chad's exactly right. That's a big part of it.
Chris, what do you think, bud?
Because of social media, everything is instant. All their information is instant. All the feedback is instant. And so I think because of that, one of the things that you have to do when you're coaching guys now is you have to be able to show them why things are the way they are, because they can go and find out instantly, why this is or what this is. And I think the most challenging thing is it's easier to motivate a kid when you can show them almost instantly, hey, this drill translates to this skill on the field, that kind of thing. And I think that's one area where we've improved really, as a coaching staff is, we're able to use those quick links, those quick little videos to show, hey, we do this drill, this tackling drill because of this right here that happened in the game. And I think from a motivational standpoint, now it's not just enough to say, hey, if you do this, you'll be able to tackle well or you'll be able to block well. I got to show it to you and then show you how it applies. And then that will motivate you to do it better because you want to block well or you want to tackle well or something like that. And, our head coach is an older guy and he's been doing it a long time. And he probably can't tell you any of the social media, avenues. I think he called it a twitch the other day instead of a tweet, but he just tells all the kids all the time that they just need to make sure they understand that once they put that there, it's there always. And I think that's done really good for our kids, just for them to understand that it's instantaneous, good and bad, and what the consequences of that is and all that kind of stuff. But in terms of the modern athlete, I would say it's not just enough to say, I know that this drill will help you tackle better. I know this drill will help you do this better. You have to be able to tell them and show them and then let them see how it applies to their playing, because they want to play good once the camera's on or once them lights come on, all that kind of stuff. And that's part of their motivation. And then it goes into what Chad said about, getting that scholarship and committing and all that kind of stuff. So they want that to be good. But in order for you to motivate them, you got to make sure that they understand why you're doing what you're doing and give them as much instant feedback as possible.
I wish somebody had motivated me and showed me all the bag drills and how those bag drills and splits and all the winning edge was good. It might have helped me get a little bit better at it. But we talk about, you hear a lot in society about, the younger generation, and now I feel like I'm really old, but the younger generation, kids these days and millennials and the kids that you guys are probably working with and teaching every day are an instant society, gratification society, as Chad was talking about. So I really love what you guys are all saying, that how you can actually flip the script and use technology and use things to say, look, this is how, because you're taking this misstep, if your footwork's off here, whether it's a quarterback, whether it's a lineman or whatever, receiver, let me show you what happens when you do it this way. Here's the route you ran that one time and you beat that guy and you did this. Now you're not doing that. So if you can quickly address that with film or something to show that instant gratification they're looking for, like, oh man, I got it now. Let's go do this, baby. I'm willing to put that time in to work on that. That's really cool. Real quick, Griff Dog has got a question, and I think it's a pretty good one here. Corey wants to know, what is the one thing you guys have learned from your playing days in high school and college that you try to teach your student athletes today? Is there anything you think you picked up or trait from, let's just say, Maryville from college that you, or some little something nugget that you pass along to the guys today that sticks out?
I learned from Coach.
Go ahead,
I learned from Coach Wilkes that if I'm going to yell at someone, if I'm going to yell at a player for something, I better make sure it's worth it. And there has to be value in raising your voice to a player, and I think that's the one thing that I do probably more than anything else is I try to stop and think about, okay, if I'm gonna get worked up about this, is it really something that's worth it?
I love that. And, that translates into a question that Kelly has, and Chad's wife has, and I'm going to ask in a second. But I think that really translates into being a better parent.
It does.
In doing that. But go ahead, Flatt.
Oh, well, and I was going to say that, when Nash and I played in high school together, and so we had a very fiery guy that Nash worked with forever that would get the team all fired up and go from there. But one of the strangest things that I always felt was a problem early on in Maryville was how Coach Wilkes wasn't like that. And that sort of bothered me. But I learned over the course of 5 seasons there with him how important that was to be your own self-motivator and how to be ready to go on your own. And that was a lesson that he taught me that I, as a stupid 18-year-old, could not see anything, while that was a smart thing. But as a coach, carried that on forever then, and was never a worked up individual, was just always trying to be steady, very steady all the time like he did. And that's one of the greatest things he taught me that we try to pass on to the kids all the time is don't get too excited when things are great, and don't get too sad when things go wrong either. You've got to stay in the middle somewhere because it's always going to change on you. And I didn't understand that lesson from him when I was 18 and 19, but I get it as a 40-year-old now.
Nash, anything to add to that?
I tell all the time, one thing I've learned from this game is, listen to what's being said and not how it's being said. Because there's meaning in everything that's being said. And it's just like, I use the example, when you get a job and you screw up on the job and your boss yells at you, are you going to fire back at him? Because you'll lose your job. Now you don't have a paycheck, your wife don't eat, your kids don't eat, so there's issues there. So, we're passionate about what we do. So, I tell them I love the game, always have, always will. But even in your real life, listen to what's being said and not how it's being said, because those are very important.
That's awesome, man.
Good question, Griff.
Yeah, good question, Corey. So if you're just now joining us, welcome to the Mo Show Live. My guests today are Jason Nash, Brian Gossett, and Chad Flatt, three former Maryville College players that I've played with that are now all successful high school coaches and educators, and we're talking about the things and characteristics and traits that they learned, they're instilling, and they think that football and athletics instills in children and kids that help them grow to be more successful persons, people, fathers, adults, and productive citizens. And the last major question I want to ask before I get to some rapid fire stuff real quick is, Kelly, I really think had a good question, is, now all four of us are dads. How do you think that your experience as a player and coach has translated into parenting? And so, Chad, since your wife asked, you get to go first.
And you got the most kids.
It's true.
Well, I don't know if I can reinvent an answer to this. I feel like the things that we talked about earlier are so pertinent to that, because nothing that we ever did came very easy, especially for me. By far the least talented of the four of us in this discussion. So everything was always about work all the time, and having to work through all these different parts of things. And so what I learned from that I've carried over as a husband and as a dad is that it's work. And it's not great every day. And it's not they live happily ever after. It sucks a lot of times. And I don't like you a lot of times, but I still love you. And you got to keep working. You got to keep plowing and trying to do those things. And that, as I started with getting up all the time, is what the main thing that instilled in me in life is not to ever give up. Because when you give up, you forfeit everything that you've worked so hard for so long. And that, above everything, is what I learned, is not to give up.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. One of the things, guys, that if you're watching the show and you just watch the show and you're not very familiar with Maryville College is a Division III program. None of us were 5-star players. So
speak for yourself, Mo.
Yeah, exactly.
0.5, maybe.
Yeah. So I think everybody
5-star hearts.
Yeah, that's right. It was the old classic Rudy line where he's like, if I could put your spot and body in Rudiger's in your body, we'd have a champion. But I really do. I think how we were able to become successful, after 4 years playing together there, I think a lot of the characteristics and traits that we grew and developed as young men translated onto the field that we've been talking about for the last 30 minutes. But Nash, I'll let you go next. But what do you think? There's things that you learned playing ball that really help you make you a better dad?
It still stems, like Chad said, it goes back to what we started with earlier. Work. It's always work. But a big one with me is success is a habit. Winning is a habit, just like losing can become a habit. So, even with my kids, if we're going to do something, we're going to try to do it to the best of our ability. And if we win, we want to win. We're not doing it just to get the participation trophy. If we're going to do it, let's try to win it. Let's be the best at it. So I think that's helped me. But it's also, that's a fine line, because you don't want to be that overbearing dad. That's constantly, you don't want them to feel like you're not happy when they don't succeed. So, being a better dad, you got to teach them how to win, but you got to teach them how to lose with grace as well. They have to learn how to fail, and you got to let them fail. Because you can't go coddle them when they don't succeed. You got to teach them how to handle that gracefully, and that's difficult and that's hard at times, like Chad said. So, I take that with me.
Yeah, all good feedback. Goose, what you got, bud?
Well, I'm probably just going to piggyback on both of those and just say that, I just want I want Reed and Katie to have as much fun as they can while they're young, and if athletics is that avenue for them, then that's awesome to me. It was a great avenue for me and helped me get to a lot of places. So, I've just tried to emphasize to them that, it'll be serious enough when it's serious enough. When they get in high school sports, it's going to be real serious and probably more serious than it should be in some cases. But right now, while they're younger, my biggest emphasis is I just want you to have a good time, and I want you to fail so that you'll know how to deal with it when the time comes. I want you to enjoy your time with your teammates because those relationships matter, and they'll help you be a better teammate down the road. And I just want them to be able to get from athletics, the things that I was able to get. And and probably more important than any of those things is, them learning how to make friends with people that are a little different than them, and learning how to figure out a way when some kid is a lot better than you, like you said, to deal with that and to make up that gap, and just some of those things that, I'd like for them to learn now before it gets real serious and there's all these results, that go along with athletics. So I think kind of piggyback off both their answers, really.
Yeah, well, I agree 100%. And those are the things that I certainly hope for Wyatt, that hard work and dedication to your craft, and that you may not have the best skill set, but if you'll beat and just drill down and do it, that you can ultimately achieve your goals or get damn near close and be the best you can be. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's, what we all achieve for. And along the way, you're going to fail. So you're going to have to get up and you're going to have to do it again and figure out a way to get around it and to get that result. So, all right, guys, I want to be mindful of your time, speaking of being dads and coaches and doing, but I do want to end with some fun stuff real quick. And I've got some rapid fire questions. We got other questions people asking. Guys, we could sit here and chat and chew the fat probably for 2 hours doing this. And I'm going to hold you guys to us getting together soon, sometime in 2019. But real quick, first rapid fire question. More nervous for a big game as a player or as a coach? Chad.
Coach, by far.
So. Yeah, you think so? Why is that? Because you don't have any control over it once you call the play and do?
You have no control over it. I mean, your control is very slight in it. Yeah. So
definitely coach.
Think so? Yeah.
Definitely coach.
Nash, same thing.
Yeah, definitely coach. Definitely. Yeah. Terrible.
Yeah. I can't imagine and do. I get all bent up when I'm watching Wyatt play AU basketball and baseball. I can't imagine playing, coaching state championship games or playoff potential games that are, playoffs on the line, and you guys are out there coaching, or ESPNU is out there watching you guys play and do. I would do it, and I'm jealous, man. I miss it and do, and watching you guys and do. I interact and love doing it with you. So, all right, so this is going to be the fun part that I think everybody that's from Maryville is kind of looking and doing that I wanted to kind of hit on and do. I want to start with school, and got to keep it PG here. So give me either one of your best or favorite memories of playing ball at Maryville, or one of your funniest memories, something that sticks out that, when we played together that maybe more football related, not off the field related, at least not off the practice field. Again, we have to keep it PG. But something that sticks out from Maryville. Then I want to ask you maybe your best memory or most achievement, as a coach in coaching. But Goose, we'll kind of start with you. Something that is there a funny memory or a go-to memory or something when people ask you about your days at Maryville College playing football?
I'd probably have to say in 1997 when we played Emory and Henry, and we came out in the Lonesome Polecat, and we came out in the formation or whatever, and one of the Emory and Henry players said, what the hell is this? And Daniel Beckman, who I know is watching, looked at him and repeated what our offensive coordinator said, which was, well, we have to line up this way because we suck so bad that we can't do anything else. So I just remember all of us laughing and the guy from Emory and Henry laughing. And we ended up winning that game on a really crazy play. We ran just a basic, I guess, just an old dive play, and our running back, Chad Tipton, broke a long run, and I think he was wearing some kind of it was really cold. He was wearing some kind of thing on his ears, and it fell down over his face. I think he ran about the last 8 or 10 yards with something over his face and dove in the end zone and all that kind of stuff. But I just remember kind of that interaction between their players and our players about that formation and that kind of thing. That was the first one I thought of when you asked the question. So
Yeah. Nash, a funny moment or something like that, or something memorable that sticks out from Maryville?
It was my freshman year. We traveled to Rhodes College, so it was 97, I guess. 97 we went to Rhodes, 97 or 98. It was my freshman or sophomore year. And I want to think I was rooming with Welsh, Mark Welsh.
He's probably watching too.
And we pulled, first off, there were bullet holes in our door at the Days Inn in Memphis at Rhodes when we got there. So, and then we pulled a knife out from underneath our mattress in our hotel room. So that was like my first travel game, and it's a welcome to D3 ball, baby, that always sticks with me still to this day, finding my first college road game and finding a knife between the mattresses at a hotel with bullet holes in it. So, but I mean, I wouldn't trade it for the world, though. I loved it.
The most important thing is that you didn't have to use it that night.
I don't think I slept that night. I mean, there's several of those. I mean, golly, there was that hotel in Illinois where we couldn't drink the water.
Yes.
You got one or two that sticks out for you?
I think I got the worst end of this because the longer I've sat here, the more I've thought of. So trying to figure out which one is probably one of the best. But I do remember one of the best experiences we had on, and I'm thinking of road trips is what I'm thinking of that we went on. Is one time we got out and Coach Wiggins was just dead set we were going to get a warm up in at the hotel, so we jogged around the parking lot for a while, and I can always remember everybody jogging around like, what are we doing out here in this parking lot? And I can just remember all the things being said as we went around, and if I recall correctly, we played pretty well the next day after that too, but I just remember that going on, and I can remember our quarterback saying some choice words about that jog around the hotel and everything. So, but there's just too many. I can think of so many funny things that happened when we were gone on those trips. So it was a good time, really good time, and something that I'm glad no matter what, the physical cost of it was worth every minute of it.
Yeah. No doubt in the relationships that we built. One that stuck out to me when I was kind of jotting down some questions, and it really involves Goose and Chad. I'm sure you'll remember this too. And you guys are better with who we were playing and when this was, I'm sure. But I think it may have been Kentucky Westland or something. We were playing somebody, and some guy, I think he was like an All-American candidate, a preseason All-American or something. And for everybody watching, Goose played center and Chad played guard, and I was tackle. And I remember Goose coming back to the huddle, and Goose could usually handle his own pretty good, and if he had to get dirty enough to handle him, he'd do whatever it took. But Goose came back to the huddle, and he looked at us and goes, "That guy just asked me if we had a weight room at our school." And I just remember thinking, man, that guy's a badass. He's talking sense. And I think we all had a really big laugh in doing it. I do remember thinking we got our tails handed to us in that game. But that one just really stuck out to me. Just thinking somebody just kicked their butt enough to ask us if we had a weight room. I don't want to keep you guys any longer, but anything else you guys want to say or do that you think that we've talked about your coaching careers and things? Well, let me ask. I tell you what I do want to ask. This is the last question that I want to ask before I let you guys go. If you had other people that are coming up, a lot of people are going off to college, going off to college and doing and thinking. You guys think about education. I know a lot of players. I know you guys all play ball. We all play ball together, and you guys are all coaching and doing it. And that was the route I originally wanted to go. Would you encourage others to go into coaching and teaching? I think that's still a good field. And what would you say to those that are looking? Nash, we'll start with you.
I'm never going to push anybody toward a profession. That's just not me. I love what I do. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. So, anybody that wants to go into education, by all means, go. But you'll never have a greater professor as Dr. Simpson was. But by all means, go and try it. And but I'm not going to say go to coaching. It's fantastic. I mean, coaching's hard. I mean, it's a hard, long struggle. And to be honest, it's not great money. So, for the amount of time that you put in. So, I mean, you really got to love it. It's almost like playing Division III football, Mo. You better love it, to play it. And it's the same thing, but anybody that wants to go into education, I don't regret it one bit. I love my job. I love what I do. And if I can help any former player or student that goes into education get a job, I'm always up for that. I'll help them out whatever way I can.
Awesome. And I love the analogy between D3 football and doing it. Yeah, I feel like a surrogate teacher, having Shannon and I have been together for 21 years. So I feel like I've been together, a teacher for 18 years, through her and seeing all the effort and the sometimes criticism and joys that come. And again, it's just like what we've been talking about, ups and downs as being a teacher, not just being a coach, but the rewards that you get out of it that I know that she gets and you guys get is just got to be, tremendous. That's the reason you stayed in it. Real quick, Chad, go ahead, Nash.
I just want to add, I said not great money for football coaches. There's really not great money for teachers, period. So, I mean, I want to reiterate that for all the non-coaches that are watching. So, we feel your pain.
Chad,
I think that would I encourage someone to do it, I would say yes. I would say that I think the job, I don't know that it's more difficult today than it used to be. I think it's very different than it used to be because of the very factors we talked about with kids, with social media, and the instant scrutiny that any decision you make comes under. I think that because of the awesome things that we have in a way to communicate the way we are right now has made just a distinct part of our population that's not very good at communicating with another person. And so as young kids come into this job, as I'm getting old now, and I've been directly hiring people now, you can see some of the struggles that come into play with that. And so it's a lot of effort, but I would definitely encourage someone who wants to feel rewarded when things go right and has some ability to handle stress. It's a great field to be in because it's going to throw a lot at you at a lot of different times. And so you just can't think like any job that it's going to be easy because it isn't. So, but I would definitely encourage people to go in it, especially if they're strong relationship wise, because there's nothing more important in coaching or in education than relationship building. Every major research oriented project will tell you the same as well. If that factor is missing, then you're going to have a struggle no matter what you're trying to do.
Yeah, I totally agree. And again, I'm not an educator, but looking from the outside looking in, but that's what bonds us. I mean, the relationships that we built, here we are, almost 20 years later, and we still text and goof off and cut up and check on each other when time's rough. We may have droughts in doing it, but I know that if Nash needed me, I'd be there tonight. So, but guess what you got, man?
Well, and I think Chad hit it pretty close, is that, you have to have a desire to want to build those relationships. If you're just in it for content, if you're just in it because you want to teach history, or you're just in it because you're content driven, you probably ought to just stay in school and become a professor. That's probably a better route for you. The relationship component, if you're willing to do that, then I think getting into education in modern times is pretty good. And, the one thing I've learned, I feel like most of all in 18 years doing this, is that it's going to be different next year than it is this year, but it may be just like this in 5 years, or it may be just like this in 6 years. I think I'm on my second or third cycle of trends where we're not going to do things this way anymore. We're going to do them this way. And now we're back to doing them the way that we did when we first started. So, and as far as coaching goes, if you want to coach, just make sure you get in a situation where you work with other coaches that have the same kind of ideas about how to treat players and how to manage things as you have, and find a little role for yourself and go do it and do that as good as you can. And I think that makes coaching extra rewarding when you can be around people that you respect and people that have the same sort of goals for the athletes that you have, and then everybody kind of jumping in and doing their part in whatever role they're assigned. I think if you're going to get into coaching, make sure that that's the situation you get into, because it makes it twice as rewarding and makes it so much more worth it as you go through that struggle that is a 10-game season, that is a playoff run, whatever it is. If you're around people that have similar views that you, that care about the athletes like you do, and that fill their roles on the staff and that kind of thing, I think that makes it better.
Well, guys, what's so interesting to me is that we've been talking for almost 50 minutes now. All the things that we kind of started off the conversation with have really weaved their way throughout the entire conversation: relationships, love, and work ethic, and doing. And you're talking about building relationships, not just with the kids, but with the staff that you're working with, and learning and finding people that you meld and work with and do. And these things transcend football and are about life. And now, not only as an educator, but as an athlete, as a coach, as we talked about earlier, as a parent. And guys, man, I want to thank you so much. I know it's almost 8 o'clock on your time zone, and it's almost 7 here, and I'm going to get home, and speaking of being a dad, and go get something to eat and do. But thank you guys so much for what you do. You guys are changing lives, literally, and I mean that. I'm not just shooting BS here. You guys are impacting kids. I know that the kind of guys you are, that you're making a difference in kids' lives, and that they're kids that are going to be more successful, just like we are, because of the people that shaped and molded us. So keep doing what you're doing, and best continued success for the rest of this school year and for next year. And I'm looking forward to catching up with you guys sometime soon. All right, guys, everybody on Facebook land, you better see a picture from all of us in 2019 somewhere together that's not Photoshop. That's PG.
Hey, Mo, thanks for having us, man. And I just want to say that if you were ever in one of those Jim Pavo morning workouts and you thought that you would hear us talking about these things and having like real serious intellectual discussions, you would be surprised. I think back to those times, and just the fact that we're all doing what we're doing. I never thought it would be like that then, but I'm glad it's that way. I would never imagine things would turn out like this, but it's awesome. And I appreciate you having us on, and I appreciate getting to talk about things that matter. That's awesome.
Well, I agree. And it's so funny because I don't want to get us distracted anymore from the conversation, but those times that we've been spent together, it's not so much, certainly we all remember, and I know you guys remember as coaches, the championships or the big wins, but where we really bonded was in that weight room or on that practice field, and the things that came up. And I think that's why we're so tight. And I think that the work ethic that we learn in different professions and do in our different professions out there, it's the time, not for me, it's not in the courtroom or the deposition. It's when I'm out here, busting my tail on Saturday morning at 5 o'clock, doing or talking with people or making relationships that turn into success later on the road and build those relationships. So, man, guys, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to continue to follow success, and thank everybody for tuning in. If you liked and enjoyed the show and the content, please share it out, because these guys are doing a lot of great success. And the last thing I want to end on is follow these guys on social, follow their teams, go out and support these teams. And, my son and I went to just a local high school basketball game the other night. I didn't have any attraction, didn't know anybody playing. We had a good time. So go out and support your local schools. And those kids are out there, and those coaches are out there trying to put out a good work product and do a good thing. And I think you'll find that you'll have a really good time, and there'll be something to be proud of. Guys, thanks again so much, and thanks everybody for joining us tonight.